Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Sam, for joining me today. Very excited to talk about your journey, talk about Waterbear, sort of its mission and vision. I'm a big fan of the platform, but even bigger fan of using sort of content and creators to showcase voices and showcase people, around the world doing really cool things. So I know that's a big Waterbear effort. It's a big effort for me at Cause Artists, but before we jump into what you're up to now as being CEO of Waterbear, talk a little bit about your journey and maybe path to become CEO of Waterbear. What was that like?
Hi, Grant. Yeah, no, it's great to be here. Thank you very much for having me. I full transparency have been on the road for the last couple of weeks and been just catching up on some sleep, and just got back into the office after some exciting days, which we'll come to on the podcast.
Sure.
But yeah, I guess my journey began as a very wide-eyed and bushy-tailed teenager, just becoming obsessed with the natural world. I went and had some amazing opportunities to watch some incredible films, and you could find me plugged into the Discovery Channel or to the Crocodile Hunter or Steve Irwin, or I just used to be obsessed with content, and I'd sit there all night watching incredible stories and just wishing I was out there. And then as I kind of moved forward into my studies, I became obsessed even further, and started to study biology and natural sciences, and it was just a dream come true. I couldn't believe that I could actually get an education and take a degree in something I cared about so much. And it's always something I say to people now, if you want to study something, make sure you love it. And I absolutely loved the natural world, but I also knew that I didn't want to become a scientist, and I did that through trying it, and spent some time on research stations in the jungle, which was pretty cool. But then it was, in one of these research stations that I found photography. There was an old army photographer there, and I just annoyed him basically for 3 months and begged him to teach me how to take photos and make images. And that was it. I was hooked. And when I got back from that trip, decided to learn how to tell stories and make films. And that's how I kind of got into this wonderful world of media.
How did you find Waterbear? And I guess what drew you to the platform? Because it's fairly new, but in the short time it's been active. It's really, when I was living in Amsterdam, I sort of came to see it much more because it's sort of a European streamer. So it came on my radar and I was like, wow, this is like top quality everything. Like they sort of take the innovative approach of looking at how to use free content to tell stories, and how to use these streaming platforms and the VOD platforms to kind of just go direct to consumer. And I thought that was just amazing for the content you're producing, and kind of taking this innovative approach of just like direct to consumer, content, building our own platform and network. But talk a little bit about what Waterbear is and sort of its mission and vision.
Yeah, thank you. I often get surprised when I tell people that we're just 2 years old.
It's crazy.
We haven't slept a lot in the last couple of years. No, I'm trying to find that balance now and make sure that we're, working within our means as a team, and, everyone can, have a life outside of work, because it's super important to us as a team that everyone, not only dedicates themselves to their job and performs, but also has space and energy to live their lives. It's incredibly important to us as a leadership group. But 2 years ago, it was, deepest, darkest pandemic, December 2020. Maybe 2.5 years ago now. And we launched Waterbear to the world, and we had kind of 3,000 bits of press written about the company, and most of them called us the Netflix for nature. They said, we get it. It's like an eco Netflix. Yeah, I can watch great content, I can stream content, but it's great because it's free and it's ad-free. And free and ad-free was a big part of our innovation. And yeah, it's funny that people love the fact that it's free. It's funny. It's not surprising, I guess. But free and advertising free was a big part of our model, and still is, because we really wanted to build this beautiful user experience where nothing got in the way. And our ultimate dream is that we can use our content and our storytelling to drive mass collective action. And we can touch on that because our new generation of Waterbear 2.0 launches in a couple of weeks, which we're really excited about. But the idea was to create a sticky content journey, a user journey that drove people to not only watch content, but then do something. And our philosophy was that if that journey was impeded by advertising or by a paywall, you'd reduce your chances of success. And, we're starting now 2 years on to kind of prove that, which is really exciting with some of our major campaigns. But we came together then in the pandemic, and we looked at each other and we said, we could just launch a subscription platform, and we could run lots of high quality content, and we can try and draw audiences to come and pay a small monthly fee. We could even donate some of that monthly fee to a great NGO, like many people do. But really our philosophy philosophy was that we wanted it to be a free and educational platform for the world, whoever you are, wherever you're from, whatever walk of life you've trodden. So that was the plan, and it's really starting to work. And the vision has always been to build this global, interactive community that is joined together with this kind of common mission of doing something great with your time. And we're not asking people to really do anything more than, spend some of your day watching great content, becoming engaged with these issues, learning, becoming inspired, and then maybe sharing with friends, taking an action, signing a petition, and really starting to, as we say, bridge the knowledge action gap. So at our heart, we're a streaming platform, as you said, really a publisher. We really want to have a viewpoint on things, but with a difference. It's interactive, it's impact-led, it's community-based. So really trying to bring that kind of digital community and streaming platform together in one beautiful product.
The caveat being is that Waterbear isn't a nonprofit organization. It is a business, correct? So what's the business model, right? I think, if it's free, right, for users, and there's no ads, like there's no friction there, right? So the onboarding is so easy, and it's so easy to sort of engage with the content, right? It makes it so frictionless, which makes it really powerful and engaging for users.
Yeah. And
but on the back end,
4,000 or 5,000 people signing up a day at the moment, which is
so crazy. Yeah, it's so crazy. And so then is the business model just being sort of I look at it where it's like you're almost just the production and you own the distribution. So people come to you wanting to make films, and you guys create that for them, and then you own the distribution as well. I guess if you can talk a little bit maybe about the business model.
Sure. Our vision really there was not that revolutionary, but I guess kind of set us apart in some ways. It was the world of B2B meeting B2C or D2C, whatever you want to call it.
Yep.
And so the current business model, yes, we are a production studio. So much like our other production studios, we produce content. We don't actually do that in-house, so to speak. We have an amazing core team, but our vision for production is that we work with producers, storytellers, filmmakers, studios all around the world. Mm-hmm. So we put an RFP out every now and then. Gotcha. We get ideas back from different studios, and we commission. It's kind of like a studio model. And obviously that's a revenue stream as well. Obviously that content that we produce is, we can monetize that content in some ways. A lot of that original content that we produce, we obviously launch on Waterbear, and there's, an exclusive window on Waterbear, and it goes out. And then down the line, we can monetize that content either through, selling it to other third parties, or launching it on different platforms, where there's some potential monetization opportunities. So that's kind of pretty classic media. The other thing that we do a lot of at the moment is we work through a growing network of brands. So we build a brand partnerships model. We're working with some incredible pioneering global brands like Nikon, Jack Wolfskin, Ecology, Fairphone, and we're really doing kind of 2 or 3 things with these guys, right? We're telling stories, so we're producing branded content. We don't really call it branded content, we call it collaborative content, because it's kind of co-creation and a real editorial approach, not just, getting briefed to produce content. We then obviously distribute that content across the ecosystem, and there's a media value and a media package associated with that. So really it's a brand-funded publisher. That's the one-liner in terms of the model. Yep. In the future, we've got some really big ideas. Some of them I can tell you about, some of them I can't.
Yeah. Let's do that. Is this 2.0? Is this 2.0 now?
2.0 is when we start moving a little bit more into the world of technology. So, lots of people ask us and they say, are you a content company or are you a tech company? I say, well, we are both. And we play at the intersection of where tech and content meet, really where inspiration through content meets action through technology. And our North Star is really, driven at that meeting point. So what we are doing over the next phase, we're just raising our next funding round, and, we're scaling now to more audiences around the world, is really to starting to innovate in that technology space. And we've got some really cool ideas around tokenization, around data, and trying to do things with a Waterbear spin, right? So everything's designed in a humane way. We're trying to minimize our carbon fingerprint, not just carbon footprint, and trying to make sure that we design with, sustainable and ethical practices in mind. But we have some big ideas in the monetization space, particularly around education, e-learning, all sorts. So there's lots of fun coming up, but you'll have to watch this space, Grant. I can't possibly give too much away.
No, I understand, but I'm excited about it because, everything you and the team have done so far has been done really, really, really well at a really high level.
If only you knew the truth internally.
Yeah. Oh, hey, listen, there's everybody has hurdles, but the final product that is put out is pretty sweet at this point. I mean, look, 2 years, you're gonna go through a year of probably trial and tribulation, right? To even get to a point where you feel decent about,
now.
hey, I've been doing this for almost 10 years and it's still hurdles, right? It's still figuring stuff out. So it's never really over, but there's obviously, if you got, 4 to 5,000 people signing up a day, you're doing something right, right? I'm not the only one that thinks that way.
Thank you. I
So
hope.
I want to kind of talk a little bit about some of the content, right? And I know it's hard. There are going to be a lot of special projects that are maybe, close to you, but can you just point out maybe some of the ones that, are sort of near and dear to you, or have done really well on the platform, or some of the things you want to shout out, maybe some of the films or content that you want to shout out that feels pretty special?
Yeah, I mean, there's one project in particular that really comes to mind. You are right. It's very difficult to pick favorites. I guess it's like children, really. You can't really tell someone who your favorite child is, but maybe you can. I don't know. But given I've just got back from London a few hours ago, where last week we took over the Curzon in Soho, there was a bit of a kind of, look, Mom, we made it kind of moment. The Waterbear presents on the Curzon on Shaftesbury Avenue in London.
Very cool. Yeah.
As a Londoner, was a kind of big moment in just 2 years. But we were there because last week we premiered our new Waterbear original film, Matar, which was actually a docu-fiction short film, so actually scripted and with actors, but based on the lived experience of an asylum seeker in the UK. We were working with an incredible guy called Hassan Aked, who is the creative director of Choose Love, which was one of the NGOs that we worked with as well. And it was produced by Deadbeat Films based out of London. But basically, Matar was the story, or is the story, of a young guy who comes to the UK and because of his status sheds light basically on the UK's broken asylum system. And actually is working to overturn a bill that's been put forward by the Conservative Party called the Refugee Ban Bill, which basically prevents people from coming to the UK and seeking safe asylum, which obviously is a basic human right. So working with Choose Love, working with Ayman Al-Hussein, who is the co-writer, and our obviously director Hassan Akad, as I mentioned, we are super proud of this project, and the campaign and film have just launched. So yeah, do go and check it out on the platform. Coming up soon, we've been working with an incredible international pianist. I can't possibly say who, but you'll have to check it out. But there's a new film coming to the platform that I really, really urge you to watch. It, again, in our way of telling stories to try and break the echo chamber, we're experimenting with formats, we're experimenting with different styles, different actors, different talent, to try and really break out of this kind of environmental echo chamber that the movement lives in. So Love this it. Is actually a music video that tells the story of tropical bird poaching with an incredible concert pianist as a star. That's all I can say, but it's a really exciting project. And I mean, to be honest, guys, we've got over 1,000 films on the platform now that really range from short 5 to 10 minute micro docs all the way up to some amazing features like Watson and others. So there's an incredible plethora of content on the platform that really you can go and watch all for free. So what's to lose?
Man, one of my last trips we took before we moved back to the US was to Vienna. And we went to, there's an opportunity to go to I guess they turned Mozart's old apartment into it's like a small room. There's probably 30 chairs in there. And they just kind of have these, weekly sort of musicians come in and play, right? And one of them was like a violinist and like a singer. And then this pianist, this person he was about to go to the biggest, stage for a piano player in the world, right? I have no idea about it, but he started to play and I was like, oh my God. It was the most incredible thing I've ever seen in my life. I was to see a person's life work live is really crazy. And it was it kind of opened my eyes to just the time dedication into something like this is just overwhelming. And he was sweating, it was like an athlete. He's watching an athlete, and pouring his heart and soul in this. I was this was I don't know. It was unbelievable. Anyway, so just saying that brought me back when you said the pianist. I was man, that's something I'll never forget. That stuff was super powerful.
Yeah, I think, we don't want Waterbear to be this digital experience forever. I think we are such big believers in the power of convening physical experience, getting together, screenings, talking, watching people sweat, feeling that, blood, sweat and tears that goes into creating art. And I think for us, it's as important to build a big digital community across our platforms as it is to actually get back into the real world. We're playing with some ideas around, should we limit the amount of time people are watching content on the platform and then say, right, you've watched enough, go and get outside. Because for us, reconnecting to nature at a deep level is only done really when you're out there and actually living and breathing it. As much as I am a filmmaker, make films and run a film company, right, we need to balance that digital experience with the physical. And that's something that we're going to play around with a lot over the next few years. And again, we've got some really big plans coming up in the kind of event space and convening space, which I think is really, really powerful. So those experiences that you went through, Grant, is exactly what we want to recreate and try and then embed an impact philosophy into those gatherings that we're going to organize.
I want to chat a little bit about creators, emerging creators, and sort of maybe just like film festivals, like in general, and sort of what advice would you give to, emerging creators trying to get into sort of whether it's documentary filmmaking or filmmaking in general in a creative way? Maybe it's documentary, maybe it's fiction, nonfiction, whatever it might be. I guess what path or advice would you give to new creators looking to get, their stuff on a streamer or entering film festivals? I guess, has that, process changed since you sort of, been in it? Is it still beneficial for creators or do anything need to change in that realm?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, the first thing I'd obviously say is come and talk to us, because one of the reasons why we launched the company was to support a next generation of diverse creative talent. It's literally in our kind of company manifesto. So if you are a young storyteller with great projects or great ideas, please do reach out. You can just email content@waterbear.com. No promises, full transparency that we'll get back to you. That is a very, very, very well hammered inbox. I can promise you that. We'll do our best, but yeah, please no hard feelings if we don't get back to you. The biggest advice I always give, I was listening to Steven Spielberg on Desert Island Discs the other day, and did you know the story of how he got his first job? He basically broke into Universal Studios and begged for an internship, and then turned into Steven Spielberg. It's kind of crazy, and I think that illustrates my point, which is you have to be quite opportunistic and you have to go for it. I do think, to answer your question about whether it's changing, I do think the industry is changing for the better slowly. I think there's many opportunities out there for grants, support systems, training opportunities, and I think what's also good is people are realizing things like unpaid internships and working for free is not a practical economic model for young talent. It really ostracizes and creates a wealth divide, which I think is needs to change, and it is changing. Sure. So I think make sure my kind of call to production studios, creative studios, film companies, etc., is ban the unpaid internship. But I think that is actually changing for the better now, and that has shifted. But I think young filmmakers just need to take their chances, right? They need to get out there and make films. And if you can get your hands on a camera and start to shoot and start to create and start to test. Another piece of advice that I always give is don't try and be too ambitious, which sounds a bit boring and defeatist, but it's really not. It's like try and get through lots of projects, try and put your arms around a project and start it, finish it, complete it, and move on to the next one. I can't tell you how many half-finished projects I see, how many people who obviously have the best intentions and awesome, ambitious ideas, but sometimes actually just rattling through some projects and maybe not taking it to quite the level you dreamed of, but it's finished, it's done, you've wrapped it up, you've put a bow on it, and then you can move on to the next one. That for me is a really good way to get your portfolio out there, build your credentials and start to meet people.
Amazing. Well, we mentioned a couple of things about technology, and I want to touch base back with that a little bit. I guess what's possible now, right? As a consumer of a video, I remember Netflix sort of did something where you can kind of go down a different path, right? It kind of pauses on a scene and you can go this route with somebody or go that route with somebody. And you kind of have this sort of give back model integrated into it or call to action type of thing. I guess what's possible with technology and content these days, or what's coming down the line that might, be exciting for you as a platform, but also as, a consumer, like you said, maybe the film stops, like you say, you kind of cap the time. Maybe it stops in the middle and say, hey, to watch the rest of this, you have to come to this festival or something to watch the end or something. I don't know what it is, but what is technology offering now that's exciting now for you as a platform and as, visual consumers?
That's a great question. I think certain people would answer that in the, experiential, let's move to the metaverse. Let's, VR, that kind of stuff. And,
Yeah.
we are talking about, some Web3 plays and what we want to do in that space. I think for us, what technology is allowing us to do is redefine a little bit what we consider success in media. And for us, that's not necessarily building a business model based on clicks and impressions, but actually building a business model based on impact returns, real measurable change, trees in the ground, kids in school, gigatons of carbon sequestered from the atmosphere. And what our distribution platforms and what our partners are allowing us to do is to embed those calls to action into the actual films themselves. And this is something that you'll see much more in our new generation of our product. But the idea that actually to bridge the knowledge action gap, right? Knowledge, obviously watching content, learning, becoming educated, action, taking an action, signing a petition, donating some money, sharing with friends, maybe even booking a trip, going, as you say, Grant, maybe going and watching the rest of a project through an experience and a festival. That's what our tech is now allowing us to do. We're also working hard on our back end and our content management system, and having a really interesting ethical debate around, should we let the algorithms take over? Should everything be data driven? Should we just kind of let tech decide? Or should we really try and build, human driven, content driven story journeys and learning journeys for people? And we're just having that really interesting ethical debate internally about how far down the data driven storytelling approach we go, or should we really stick true to our roots and create these beautiful, editorial journeys that we program for our membership group? And that's kind of this push and pull between, a very tech driven product and much more of a kind of story-led editorial product. And again, there's no right answer really. It's going to be a bit of both. And we're very excited to be able to lean much more on data, to be able to look at actually what our audience is watching, what people really want to see, but also realize that actually what we want is to take people to places they've not necessarily been, or the algorithm wouldn't take them. And that requires curation, that requires brain power, discussion, editorial debate. And that's something that we're really interested in.
You mentioned sort of Waterbear 2.0 and when I was, living in Amsterdam, it was sort of really awesome because I could turn the TV on and Waterbear was integrated into like the Samsung TV, like ecosystem. It was like a channel on their free thing. And I was like, this is great. Like it takes the friction out of even having to download an app on a TV. Right. And that was super interesting and great.
Yeah. That's really important to us, Grant. Right. So I think a lot of people, you find different people out there, and lots of people say, right, digital's the future, and app-based products are the only way to go, and all the new Gen Z, Gen Alpha, and young audiences around the world, they only watch content on the mobile phones, and that there's truth to that. But I still think the linear broadcasting world, television is not dead. I think the average American watches 3 hours of TV a day still. So if you put 8 hours if you're lucky, 5 hours if you're not so lucky of sleep in a day, plus a day in the office of 8 hours or whatever it might be, that's a lot of time still spent watching TV. And then you put the digital experiences in there as well. And, you've got basically your whole time is taken up with consuming content. For us, it was very important to build a linear proposition, and we chose to expand our horizons in the fast channel arena. So that's what you've been watching on Samsung.
Yep.
So we're now, on these free ad supported streaming channels. And yeah, it's going really well. Samsung are rolling us out to more markets. The channel's performing really well. We're now working on a couple of other big deals across some different providers, looking at some key markets like the US, where we're expanding into. If you're a fast channel operator or provider listening, please do come and reach out, because we've got some really exciting content. No, I'm kidding.
Well, that was the question I had to it, was that you start in Europe, there's sort of these regional friction points that you have, right? From going to, whether it's Europe to Asia or, obviously North America. These are so different markets. Like, you can't just release something and go everywhere, even though it's sort of the internet, right? And that's kind of the point of it. There's still sort of these, I don't know if it's licensing deals or app stores, sort of different ones that you have to get on. But I guess what is the barrier to entry to here into US? Is it complicated, or is it just, hey, you need to have some type of boots on the ground here to kind of, work with people here, or, networks, or integrate with the OS, on Amazon, right? Or whatever, sort of Pluto TV, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Is that coming with sort of 2.0, where the US, it's going to be easier to sort of access Waterbear, not just via like an app.
Yeah, that's the plan. We're actually going to have presence in the US, and to our barriers to entry. Obviously, there's a hardware challenge
Mm-hmm.
sometimes. You actually need to build the product that works, and actually works with the service or provider that you're talking to, and we've got a few things working in that space. Sometimes it's more of a brand awareness piece. The US
Sure.
is a big place, and despite lots of amazing people knowing about Waterbear, again, we're only 2 years old and we don't have infinite marketing dollars, and we're competing against some very, very, very big,
Yeah.
well-funded companies. But there's a core contingent now, coming to the platform really regularly, and we're very excited just to expand that, over the next couple of years as we run and grow our presence over in the US and some other core markets. Our focus is still English-speaking world at the moment, which again is not quite true to who we are as a business. We want more audiences from the global south. We want more storytellers enjoying stories in their own languages. Again, we don't just want to be an English language company. We do have subtitles and things like that now,
Sure.
but localization is a very key part of our next phase, and rolling out into some really key territories, particularly Spanish-speaking world, Latin America, and then, maybe further down the line, places like India and China. But we've got some big hurdles to overcome before that.
Sure.
But hardware companies and providers like Samsung are incredibly supportive and have been really powerfully into the Waterbear vision since day one, and are really helping us to scale the channel and the brand in different key markets. And it seems to be working really well. So again, a huge thank you to those providers who've been with us for a long time.
I'll end a little bit on the future here, and I know we dabbled in the future, but maybe a little bit more kind of goal oriented around successes and goals you want to hit if you look at the next 3 to 5 years as perhaps a new funding comes in and or getting in new geographical areas. I guess, what are some of the goals and successes you would like to see as a team be implemented over the next, let's say, 3 to 5 years?
It's a great question. We always come at things like that from an impact-led perspective. So really our success for us is about have we created the impact results that we wanted to see. So we have an inbuilt impact framework. We have 8 main stakeholder groups across the company, from storytellers to NGOs to brands to our board to members to our community. And we define key metrics on each of those different stakeholder groups that we want to try and hit. So for me, what are some of the goals? Running some of the best and most successful impact campaigns that we've ever done. That's really kind of top of the list. Obviously, creating some incredible content and stories which fuel those campaigns. And we've got some big films and projects in the pipeline. Our real focus over the next 24 months is driving community engagement, really getting people coming to our main products regularly, every week, every month, and engaging and watching content and taking an action. It's not just enough for them to come and watch a film. It's really, the plan is to try and get people to come regularly and start to build watching content and taking action into their daily or weekly lives. And that for us is the core focus over the next 12 months. And we've got a really exciting roadmap. We've got some new team joining. We've got some new funding coming in. And that engagement quest is really something that we're going to be focusing on massively as a company. And then, of course, because as you mentioned, Grant, we're a business. We're actually a B Corp, so we're a business that's really governed by the highest standards of ethics. We really want to prove that we can run a financially sustainable and even profitable company. But actually, that then fuels the further impact that we want to create, and that's something that we're working on hard in the background, and really elevating the company now from a business point of view as well.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Sam, for taking the time. I know you're super busy, and I've been a fan for a while, and it's great to see it maturing. And like you said, you're sort of up against some Goliath competition, right? But that's also fun. To me is going up against them, it's I think it's a fun journey, and enjoy the ride, man. But best of luck to you and the team for the next decade.
Grant, thanks for having me on. And don't get me wrong, we absolutely love being David and taking down a few giants. So keep a watch and check out waterbear.com, and share the love with your friends and family, because there's some great stuff on there. But thank you, Grant.